So ladies, I have another message for you. I title this one, Civilized, and it's taken in part from Genesis chapter 25. This is a fascinating chapter because it deals with the birth of Jacob and Esau. And what is so interesting about all of this is that some of the description, particularly about Jacob himself, is lost in translation. When you begin to view this passage from more of a Hebraic or a Hebrew standpoint, you discover that Jacob is more or less described as the civilized man or the civilized one. And when I first discovered this, I thought, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense because, Jacob is a man of the tent, so he's probably clean, well-dressed, washes his hands before he eats. He's probably better educated because he hangs out with his parents. And then, Esau, of course, is out there outside all the time getting dirty and greasy and grimy, hunting animals, gutting animals, all of that. So that made perfect sense to me. But the interesting thing, though, is that when I started to look at the life of Jacob, particularly the way he treated people, at least for the first 40 years of this guy's life, he was anything but civilized in the way he would treat individuals around him. And in particular, his brother Esau. The fact is, he cheated Esau out of his birthright, and if that weren't bad enough, he cheated him out of his inheritance. And then we find that in his early 40s, he's like 42, 43 years old, he's running for his life to escape the wrath of his brother. And he winds up, I think by God's design, with his uncle Laban. That's his mother's brother. And Laban, I think again by God's design, is a lot like Jacob. He's a lying, treacherous individual. And by Jacob's own description, Laban, cheats him of his wages something like 10 different times. He changes his wages 10 different times. And then what's so laughable is that he also, cheats him on his wife. He thinks he's marrying Rachel and he gets Leah. And so it's not until I think 20 years after this, he's like in his, early 60s at this time, and Joseph has just been born, that Jacob finally picks up his family and heads out on his own. And no sooner has he gotten out on his own than he receives word that Esau, with a bunch of his men, is coming out to meet him. And, Jacob knows, well, I'm probably a dead man, and so is my family, because this man is going to kill me because of what I did to him some 20, 25 years earlier. And Jacob can't really do anything. He's out of options. And so he does really the only thing that he can do, which is to cry out to the Lord for all he's worth. And it's during this time, obviously, we read the historical account of the angel of the Lord appearing before him. This is probably the, pre-incarnate Christ. And he does the unthinkable. He wrestles with this angel, and he will not let this angel go until he blesses him. And we arrive at the moment that the angel says, okay, I will bless you. Your name will no longer be Jacob. It will no longer be the usurper, the deceiver. I will give you a new name, and that name will be Israel. And the reason why I bring this up is because I think that it was during this time when Jacob passed from being a savage, which is what he had been all his life, into being a civilized man. And I think the difference here was that Jacob not only acknowledged God, right? Everybody acknowledges God. Satan acknowledges God. But he submitted to God. And I think for us, it's the moment, whenever that comes, when we finally submit to the Lord, that we too pass from being savages into being civilized. It's fascinating stuff. God bless you both.